my pleasure to introduce our next speaker. That's going to be Lisa from Oklahoma on watershed inspections and other best practices being used in Oklahoma. And we understand it's not only you, Lisa, but you also have that wonderful husband of yours just a few feet away from you, my understanding is, from NACD. Shout out to our NACD regional folks that are joining us today. And go ahead, Lisa, take it away.
Good morning, Ray, and good morning, everyone. Glad to present here in this very timely topic, and have already started making notes of some things that we can implement as well. To start off with, I think I'll start with some of the best practices, many of which Indiana and Washington State have already talked about. One of the challenges that we've had here in Oklahoma is the fact that we have a severe lack of rural broadband in the state. So using some of the technology is limited in some of our rural conservation districts, but they've managed to get pretty creative with their board meetings. They're getting better at teleconferences and getting those set up. Many have held social distancing board meetings, whether it's in the field office parking lot or a district barn or on hay bales, just out in the open, trying to make sure that they got their business conducted. The other challenge that we had was right before we had to implement teleworking, we had opened up our latest cost share program. So producers were making applications to that program, and then the offices were closed to the public. So districts kind of went back to old school practices where they would accept applications over the phone and help them fill them out, mail them the application, have them sign it, and drop it back off. They had drive-up cost share applications where folks could just drive up, let them know they were there, and they'd come and get the application from them. So I have to say our folks have been very flexible and working hard to make things work. The other thing that I've appreciated is our Employees Association has been doing a similar community conservation calls with all district employees invited to a teleconference weekly, so that they can talk about challenges that they have or things that are working well for them, sharing ideas. And they started that without any assistance from our state office, which I'm glad to see happen. But one of the main things that Ray asked me to talk about was, as many of you know who've talked to me before, we have 2,107 upstream flood control dams in the state of Oklahoma. And so when we began putting telework plans together in mid-March, one of the things that came up was that we recognized that field work could still continue in the state. And so one of the other things that we did before I dive into that is we quickly gathered a list of emergency contact emails and cell phone numbers for one contact on the board and one staff member, so that if we needed to do a blanket email out to directors, we had one on the board that hopefully was getting that information, so that they were getting the same information that we were providing to our district staff, so that there was no guessing what our message was out to their district. So one of the first things we did was based off of the USDA example, we developed a letter for field staff to carry in the field in the event they were stopped and asked why they were out and about, indicating that they were essential. We put that on our agency letterhead so that folks could continue their business unhindered, hopefully. So we encourage field work to continue, especially in inspections and maintenance of flood control dams. We felt like of all the district activities, that was one that lent itself to social distancing. And it was an excellent time, being the beginning of spring and headed into summer, to get work done. So we've had some good success in getting a lot of our work done and eyes on those dams, probably some for the first time in some months. The other thing that we kicked off during this time was what we called a dam a day on Facebook. And so we had districts send in to our public information officer pictures of one of their dams and where it was and the name of it. And then we have the ability to tie all of the benefits to that so that we could show how many bridges are protected, how many acres of farmland, roads, all of those sorts of things, what kind of monetary benefits each of these dams provide. So for 60 days, we started this a couple weeks ago. So for 60 days, we'll host one particular and showcase one particular dam each day. And then the other thing that has started, we had some construction and repair work that was planned to begin early in March, and all of our contractor bid construction site showings were canceled because the state wasn't operating those projects. They weren't going to allow those to go on. And so yesterday we were able to do a virtual site showing with teleconference and some video availability for folks that wanted to go out and look at the site before they bid. Because there are some folks really hungry for work right now, we've probably had over 20 to 25 contractors on those calls. So we're able to start getting those bid projects done so that we can continue construction work, which I think will be a benefit to the state. Also, at this time, I'd like to switch hats a little bit and give a plug for two upcoming webinars that will be hosted by the National Watershed Coalition. These were planned before
Hope we didn't lose Lisa there. Lisa, come on back if you can. We may need to come back to Lisa and make sure that you know about those webinars. The National Watershed Coalition is going to be sponsoring next week. Will be the first one on easement basics, and the second one will be in July. More information to follow. So Lisa, hopefully I covered that well, and when you get back in, then we'll cut you back in at a time we can. Thanks for those outstanding ideas. My goodness, infield ideas, a dam a day. It felt like when one window closes, another one opens for us in terms of bids and contract and that sort of thing. So really appreciate that. But we'll come back in, and you can type in, Lisa, if you can hear me, you can type in those National Watershed Coalition webinars coming up.